Hello and welcome back. It's the Clay Golem. We're back in version 13 of Foundry, just for those of you not keeping up. And we are doing Phandelver and below. Just bearing in mind, this is the original module. As we have discovered, it's a little skinny in places. We're carrying on building. I can see there's 4 of you already waiting patiently before we even kick off here, which is great. Just checking. No, I don't want to do all of that. Last thing I need is notifications from blinking YouTube while I'm actually trying to do stuff, eh? Right, a thumbs up from somebody would be good, just to make sure my sound is working. I'm paranoid after that one time 4x2 lead, thank you. I'll take that as a yes. Good evening, hope you're alright. Yeah, so last time, what did we do? So we're on Wave Echo Cave, which is kind of, yeah, thank you, Jason, appreciate it, mate. And again, yep, good, yeah. I just sit here talking to myself for ages, thinking, what? And that was like, we were about like 6 minutes in or something before somebody went, we can't hear you. It's like, oh no. So yeah, Wave Echo Cave, and it's very kind of combat oriented. I already whinged about some of the ridiculousness about this big bad evil guy not being able to deal with some relatively straightforward things. But anyway, that is all about making it better in the future. We need to finish building first, which is hopefully what we'll get finished in today's session, on the assumption I sharp and get on with it. Right? So our next area, because we've done up to 10, 11, 12, so our next area to do on this is area 13, which is actually this area over here. Okay, so we're just going to update our tags, make sure we know where we are. And what might be worth doing while we're here is also tagging that this is area 14 and this is area 15. I know I've put that in the wrong place. Let's move that a little bit over so it's slightly out of the way, because that is the ultimate goal of the whole thing. Yes, not the highest number in the thing, which is why you can never trust the module numbering to assume it's in any logical pattern. If you look at the way this is numbered, 1, 2, then we go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then 9, 10, 11, 12. So it doesn't go across, it doesn't go up and down, left to right, or anything like that. It's just all over the bloody place. Which is why these tags are so useful, because now I can ignore the map, jump to 13, which is the Starry Cavern. So just bring this module over here. Again, this was given away free. This one is the original starter one, so I'm not sharing anything that you shouldn't be able to see. There's no copyright issue with me sharing this, because you can just go grab it yourself. All right, glittering minerals in the ceiling of this large cavern catch the light and send it back to create the impression of a starry night sky. Isn't that lovely? So there's potential we can do something with that with regard to lighting to try and represent that. So just remember, the maps I use, I prefer, because it is a preference, I prefer not to use maps that have lights already baked into them. Because if there's a campfire that's the map shows it's already lit, you can't then turn that campfire off because it's baked into the map. I rather have a map without lights, and then I can put lights on top in Foundry that I can then switch on and off. Right, it's large enough to contain 2 freestanding structures, which are the 2 buildings. La 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 la. Any character proficient in Arcana, subtle area of magic in this cavern. That's it. Apart from the fact it having some shiny ceiling stuff, there's nothing here. I know in the updated one, I think there's some skeletons and things in here, which is a better, but is it brilliant? Right, what can we do about lighting? So this is a good chance to look at some of the other lighting options. So it says, yeah, we got a bit of that on the map itself. Let's just slap out a light and look at what our options are. So obviously we can do things like change the radius and whether it's dim or bright and all of those exciting things. Whether it's constrained by walls, which almost all the time you would want yes, because what kind of wall is it if it doesn't constrain light? I mean, yes, of course, magical barriers that you might want to, you know, block movement but not light and things. It's not darkness. We're not going to change the color of the light at this point, but if we jump to light animation, is there something we can do here to represent that? Now there is starlight, if you can see that, just zoom in a bit. That might work. Anything else? Vortex, no, that's not going to work. Torch, we use torch for torches and campfires. Swirling rainbow, clearly not. I say clearly not. You could use that. I don't think the description, and of course we can change it. It just says glittering minerals, so it doesn't say that they're necessarily any particular colour. You absolutely could use that. Totally could use that. Swirling fog, no. Sunburst, no. Starlight is probably good. Smoke patch, siren light, revolving light. If you're not sure what they are, go and click on them yourself, find out, because trust me, they're not right for this. Light dome, that could work too, couldn't it? I mean, it looks more underwater than anything else, to be fair. So maybe not. In fact, actually, we might play with that in a moment. Hex dome, definitely not that. Ghostly light, yeah, not really. I think we found some better. Flickering light, again, you can't really see it sometimes. What I should have done is actually change the colour so that you can see the effects better, yeah? If I was any good at this job. Fairy lights. See, fairy lights is a bit too intense, I think. I think the rainbow one would be better. There's chroma, and that's going to go through. I really like that, but not for this. And bewitching wave, we don't want it pulsing like that. That's for other things. We could go with swirling rainbow, though. Now, what we do want to do is make sure this light kind of fills the cavern a bit. If I stick it in there, that's not going to work. You can see that that's going to, you know, obviously that pillar is blocking it. And I don't want to put out loads of different ones. So what I might do is I might put it there, because the image shows it around this side a bit more. I might put up the brightness to 20 and then 40. That's a bit further. What if I got the brightness of 0? That might give us a slightly dimmer effect rather than it just lighting the whole place. That could well work. Colour intensity, we could turn that intensity down, or we could turn it right up if we wanted to. It's not making a huge amount of difference. And of course, because I've said red, actually it doesn't make an awful lot of difference for this one. But turning it down to be pinker is giving us a bit more. In fact, if I take that out completely, then we're going to get a much whiter kind of light. And then we can... doesn't really do a lot. The things like the color intensity and stuff like that doesn't always have much of an impact depending on the color of the light. So now I've just gone with the standard white light, really. So the intensity doesn't always have much effect depending on the animation, but we can certainly do things like the animation speed we can change. We can change the animation intensity. That's probably too much. Put that back to being a little bit duller. I think that will be fine. There are advanced options, so you can fiddle with these if you want to. I very rarely touch these, to be honest. Very rarely touch these unless I'm doing a specific effect where I might do something like drop the saturation out for a dream sequence or something like that, where I want it to be lit, but I want it a little more grayscale. Or I want to make it more tainted towards blue and things like that. And we've done that in Curse of Strahd for a few scenes where we've kind of washed it out to show. I think I used a pale blue to wash out for the ethereal plane. And then there's a dream sequence, which I think I just did a black and white one. Who knows? I've changed these things so many times. Shadows, not going to make much difference on this. Not going to do it. But... we got this problem of this is not really working because of this pillar here, right? So bearing in mind that these are our walls and we can do what we like with them. If I select these walls, I can choose to update them and say, do they wall restrictions, movement? Yes. Sight? Yes. Sound? Yes. But light, let's say it doesn't. And that way we get that light effect is for the whole of this area, even though from a player's point of view, that pillar is solid rock. So little things like that you can do just to improve the way that those work. So I think that's fine. Now, I was looking at the other effect, wasn't I? And I said, oh, it looks a bit like water. I'm going to play with this. And I've not done this before, and it just occurred to me that I probably should have done. So let's have a play with it. Now, I did say we're going to come back at the end and do little improvements and changes and stuff, and I've got myself distracted because it's what I do. But it's pretty cool. Now, one of you is going to remember which one it was because I've already forgotten. Let's make that 20 and 30, so we've got something to look at. Definitely wasn't that one. Was it? I think it was something dome. That would remove shadows from player light sources. Yeah, dome something. You're right. Well, hexadome. No, light dome. Light dome. That was it. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, 4x Thule. Jason, that would remove shadows from player light sources. If you put it onto the player's light source, you mean, like on their torch and things like that. Is that what you mean? Because, do you know what? I've not played with it as a tokens light source, only in the rooms and stuff like that, which can be useful to put those shadows on if you've got a dark, dingy cave and you want to have corners darker than normal. In the Starry Cavern, right? Okay, so sorry, I'm getting distracted. I'm going to make this a bit bigger. And let's just put that up to 40. So this. And I can move it this way a bit. So you see how that looks like rippling water? I quite like that. I think that looks really nice. Now, obviously, we don't want it rippling water on the shore here. So just like we did with that pillar, what we can do is we can just slap a wall in and actually make it... the only thing it does is we want to make it a one-way wall, don't we? So this is what we got to think about, right? If we let's put a wall in. Right, let's put a wall in to stop that light. Now, bearing in mind, this is not the way we want it to be. We kind of follow that shoreline a bit. Doesn't need to be perfect. Okay, because we only want the water to have this effect. If we do this, that is most definitely going to keep that water effect, what we're calling our water effect, in the water. But of course, this is now a wall, which means players or any token can't move through it, they can't see through it and everything else. So we certainly don't want to do that. So what we need to do is we need to change this wall to say movement. It doesn't restrict movement and it doesn't restrict sight. Okay, so we can do that. That's easy. We've just kind of done that, and it doesn't restrict sound. So now players will be able to move through it, they'll be able to see through it, etc. But it's still blocking light. So if they come down here with a lantern, they're not going to be able to see beyond that wall because it's blocking light, right? But remember that you can do, there we go, restrictions. You can do it one way or the other way. You don't have to have it both. So, and I always get it the wrong way around. Now, is that it restricts you if you're looking up? Yeah, look. So this is now letting light through. So we've got our water effect on this side because, surprise, surprise, 50-50 chance I've got the wrong one. If I change that to right, that is going to block that light coming this way, but it will not block light coming from the other way. Okay, so it stops that water effect coming out this way. The only thing that might look a bit weird is if players are over here with a torch lit, so they're standing up to their knees on the beach, their light won't shine over this way. But you know what? I'm not that bothered. The chances of that happening is relatively small. The chances of them wanting to take a lit torch into the water is relatively small. And if it's a problem, I just delete the wall, right? That's how we roll. So I'm going to make that right, not restrict movement, not restrict sight, not restrict sound. Boom. There we go. So from the player's point of view, they can see this effect here. But another thing we need to be careful of. Let me just grab a random. Hello. Gosh, why is that taking a while to load? There we go. If I grab a random token here, let's make it dark. Make sure it's dark, and also make sure that I've got token vision on. I have, which is good. So when this goes really, really dark, that lake is now lit up. So we do need to be a little bit careful of that as well. We want the effect, but not the light source. So, see what I mean? Sometimes you can get really lost fiddling around with these little things, and it really doesn't matter. This is unnecessary fluff. It's unnecessary stuff that I'm now getting stuck doing because it looks cool. We don't need to do this. We really don't. So we can fiddle with any of those things and just kind of change things like the brightness and stuff to make it a bit more realistic. I would probably turn down the animation speed on that a little bit. May turn down the intensity and stuff as well, but so there's lots of things we can do to kind of make that a bit more groovy. Now again, when I'm using this token, yes, I can see that water. Yes, it is kind of shedding a bit of light. I can make any excuse I want for that if I decide to keep that. It's lit from below. Something's in the water that's shining up, or that there's a hole in the roof that's letting in a shaft of light, sunlight, moonlight, or something like that. Or I could just ignore it. It's up to you. Do what you like. Right. Massively distracted. Let's put the lights back on so you guys can see. Magic, yeah. It's D&D. It's like, why is that lake glowing? Magic. Just leave it. It's magic water. And then watch the party all try and fill up every vessel they've got with it, and then spend half an hour arguing over who's going to drink the magic water first to see what it does. And it turns out the only thing the water does is glow slightly. Maybe that's just me being evil to my players, but yeah, I love doing that stuff. We could repeat that same thing up here, by the way, when we get to this bit. But hey, let's not faff around too much. All right. So Starry Cavern, which is where we started with that. What is after the Starry Cavern? We have the Wizard's Quarters. Now this talks about this being, a dust ash walls blackened by fire, etc, etc, etc. Now what I didn't do, and I should have done, is I didn't have a look at those tiles to see if they were relevant to this room. So apologies while I faff around in the other screen just for a moment. Just being careful not to share all of my secrets. I can show you now I'm in the right place. So my Phandelver resources, and I know it's really small for you, but I will make it bigger in a second. We want to look at those overlays, and we wanted the gridless ones. Here they all are. And if you remember, it kind of gives you the room numbers. And I've already forgotten what room number we're on. 14. So they've got 14, the treasure empty, the Wizard's Quarters. That's the tiles that they've got. So let's bring those in, because they actually could be useful for a change, which is nice because they're all relevant to this. Go to our tiles. We're going to go to our tile browser. Because I'm saving this all as part of a module so that I can rerun this multiple times, I need to go into my modules. Oh, we're not going to look at my Curse of Strahd that's hiding there, tempting me to play with it some more. We're going to go into Phandelver. We're going to go into our scenes, and we're going to choose File. It's going to take me to the wrong place. We're going to go into Curse of Strahd. Everything points at Curse of Strahd. Foundry, data. No, I don't want to be in there, do I? I want to be in campaign resources. I want to be in Phandelver resources. Wave, Echo, Cave. I tell you, if you're doing map building, organising yourself, you will thank yourself for actually doing that, rather than being sloppy about it like me. Let's bring in that one. We're going to bring in that one. You can do it. And we're going to bring in that one. So that's 14, 14, and 14 we're bringing in for that. So let's slap those out once it's done it. Come on. Don't crash on me now. Are these Forgotten Adventures? These resources are... Yes, these are. Yes, this is Forgotten Adventures maps and resources. They're free ones. Free ones? These are free ones, I think. I think. Now, hang on a minute. Why did I say I can't share Phandelver with you? They are Forgotten Adventures ones, but I'm not allowed to share them, which makes me think that perhaps they weren't the free ones. I think they're Patreon. But I know I can't share this module with you once it's finished being built because I don't have rights to the assets. So I believe Forgotten Adventures maps, but they're Patreon, which means I can't share them. Think. Right. Let's slap those out. I'm missing one. I'm missing the one. Oh, I must have moved too quickly for it. The one without treasure chest. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Right, brilliant. Thank you. We can get rid of that. And now we can have a look at these tiles themselves. All right. So, obviously, these are massively big compared to what they need to be. But you can just shrink them down to whatever size they're supposed to be. Now, bearing in mind, we've got pictures of tiles on these that I imagine are supposed to map with the other ones. So that's the right way that way. That's the right way that way, but they don't quite map in. That's fine. So if we want to use these, we absolutely can. And we can slap these in. Yeah. So we've got some images to use for them. And obviously we've got this other one with the treasure chest full. So we can use one or the other, or we can swap them out, etc. if we want to do that. Now, my challenge, because I'm very challenged, you guys know this by now, is this colour difference. I hate it. I hate the fact that this looks like it's cartoon glued on over the top, which it is, because it's just not happy. I don't like it. So I'm not going to use those just on that basis. What I can do is use like free assets and things like that, and just put the chest on, stuff like that. Let's have a quick look to see what I've got in there. So give me a second as I go back to my other resources in the other page. I want my there we go. So Forgotten Adventures map making pack that I have, which is over here, and I can find those kinds of things in here and just put them directly on. You know, if I go into decor, it got so bloody many I can never remember where to find things. Barrels and graves, furniture, possibly. Is it going to be under furniture? Are we going to have C for chests? No. Again, I'm not going to waste loads of your time while I just look through menus and try to remember where stuff is. Overlays and effects, and fire and stuff like that. Rubble, structures, terrain, textures, vehicles. It must be in decor, surely. And it might be under something called containers rather than chests. Firewood, flags, banners, levers, mirrors, office, outdoor, telescopes, storage, there we go, chests. So I've got a whole bunch of these chests here, and actually if I go to the if I go to the tile thingy again, so again this is just to show you what you can do. Of course you don't have to do this. I'm going to take it off of the tiles view, because then it works much quicker, because it's not trying to sort out through all those tiles at the same time. So if I go into my Forgotten Adventures pack, where was it? It was in decor, storage, chests. Then all I can do is just take any one of these. Now there's a treasure chests one there that's got things like empty chest, full chest, right? So I can take these. Let's start off with the closed one. What was it called? Oh my god. Chest closed. There we go. And then if I find a chest closed and drag it out of there we go. So we can use this instead. Then I haven't got that horrible thing with the floor looking different, etc. And of course I can resize it to however I want. And if I want to turn this tile, because it's not how I want it, if I double click on it, so you've got rotation. I can rotate that by 90 degrees. There we go. And I can pop that wherever I want it. Now, it is snapping. If you didn't know, I'm sure I've said it before, if you didn't know, if you hold down shift, then you can do fine placement, just like with walls and things like that. So you can slap that wherever you want it. Lovely jubbly. Now, the other tile that we brought in was the one with the door smashed down. It's over there. Idiot. I did bring it in. Yeah, we've got this one here with the door smashed down. Which again, massively too big for what we need. But you can see where this goes. And if I line it up properly, that's going to sit in there. Yeah. Now, is my doorway the same size? Because my tiles and everything are scaled differently. That looks about perfect. So we can do that if we want to. Now again, depending on which ones of the maps that you use, that all looks fine at the front there, but look at the back end of it. So in hindsight, if I wanted to use all these tiles, I should have used the version that is fully populated with all the furniture and everything else. And then these tiles would have blended in properly with that. But I didn't do that, so these tiles are not really doing it for me. Again, when we come to tidying up and everything else and making it nicer, we could just change out the bloody map and use the other one. Because all of the things that we've put on, tiles with our effects on, these numbers, our creatures and things, do not get moved just because we change the image underneath. So as long as the image is the same size, you can change the map underneath all of that stuff as many times as you like. So we might do that. We're not going to do that today because we're supposed to be actually just getting on a building, aren't we? And not faffing around. Right, going to get rid of that and I'm going to get rid of that. We're not doing that for the moment. Right, what actually happens in here? We're half an hour in. We've not actually done nothing to play with lights. So this room, this is what's important. This room contains a restless spirit, Moresk the Wraith. So we can, in the modules, flicking bloody thing open just to really annoy you, you can see that we've actually got stat blocks and things for them. So it tells us a bit about him. He's a powerful mage. You know, he's basically hanging around in here. Some roleplay information and then some treasure. So if we look at him, because we've got that stat block in here, we're after a wraith. So let's just grab ourselves a wraith. And I'm fairly sure, yes I did, because it was driving me nuts not having it. We can grab ourselves a wraith. We've got the Tasha's version or we've got the DMG version. We're going to be sticking with the DM version. I'm just making sure I haven't already got wraith in. No, I haven't. No, don't want the Tasha's one. Let's go with the normal monster manual one. There we go. So because it's given us the stat block, what I want to be sure is that that stat block matches. So 6, 16, 16, 12, 14, 15. Yep, that's all the same. Damage resistances, that's all the same. Immunities. Oh yes, because immunities are all together. That's fine. Challenge rating. See, the one they've got in the module is challenge rating 3. This is challenge rating 5, which instantly tells us there's a big difference between these two. Armor class is the same. The one in the module, bearing in mind that this is a low level module and wraiths are pretty damn tough, they've given it 45 hit points. Now, why are these two things different? There's probably this is probably a factor of the differences between 2014 and 2024 rules, where lower level characters are actually a fair bit more powerful in 2024 than they are in 2014. It's actually harder for you to accidentally wipe out your whole party, which I think is a good thing, although death absolutely should be part of the player's experience. We'll be generous. We're going to drop that down a little bit. We've got life drain activity. Yep, absolutely. We want that because otherwise it's not that. Sunlight is sensitivity, corporeal movement. Talking's hard. Right, so we're going to slap him out here. Now, before I do that, actually, I'm going to rename him. And I think I've said why I do this before, and you, for those of you who are aware of Curse of Strahd, you'll know that I do this with all of them. Is I rename them. I'm going to update his token, so his prototype token, rather than it just saying Wraith, I'm going to have his name in there. I'm going to change this to when controlled, it will show his name. And for me personally, I like to always have the hit points of my monsters showing, because then I got a good idea how well the battle is going without having to open character sheets and stuff. I can just look at it. So the reason why I make those changes to the name and to the token name is that when I drag him out, because he's moved in my list, of course, because I've changed his name. Hello, where are you? There you are. When I drag him out, I can see his hit points, but as soon as I've clicked him, I can see his damn name, because I'm rubbish. Hi Igla, good evening mate, welcome aboard. Yeah, I can see his name, because I can't keep track of NPCs, and every DM has this to a certain extent. They walk into the bar and, you know, that they were in 3 years ago, and they want to know what the, you know, the barkeep's name was, and you made it up on the spot and you've forgotten and everything else. It's embarrassing. So yeah, I'm going to do that. That's my normal way of doing it, and I'm going to hide him because he doesn't start off. We are going to come back and redecorate this room properly as part of the sprucing up stuff, because yeah, it doesn't make sense. It talks about the treasure chest I just deleted and stuff like that. Now, what about treasures? So let's have a look, see if we need to build anything here. 3 diamonds worth 100 gold each, and a wooden pipe adorned with platinum filigree. Great. So looking in here, we haven't got any of those things. Have we got a diamond anywhere? I suspect we don't, so we might want to create one. We've got gemstone. That's what we did. We just went gemstone, 100 gold, rather than defining it specifically. Now, because we're putting our treasures into the different chapters on this one, I'm going to drop that down there. I'm going to click on it, rename it to get... Hello. I'm going to rename it to get rid of that word copy. Okay, and we can tell them that they found a diamond and it's worth about 100 gold, and then we can chuck a gemstone 100 gold into their inventory, because again, they don't really care. They might care when they go, oh, hang on a minute, 3 diamonds worth 100 gold. Are they useful for spell components? In which case you can convert them over if necessary. But I think for general, they're going to flog it, sell it, stuff. The international language of flog it. If you're going to sell it and stuff, they don't really care. So that will do very nicely. Now, the other item was a wooden pipe adorned with platinum filigree. So I'm going to copy that. We're going to create a new item. It's going to be loot. All right. And we are going to pop in the description what it says from the module. And again, I'm just going to remove any... No, I'm not doing that. I'm going to remove any text formatting. Wooden pipe adorned with platinum filigree. The name of the item, let's just call it decorative pipe. There we go. Nice and easy. That's our item. Now we can just go find an icon for it. So core data somewhere. You know how much trouble I have with this. Is it under commodities? Where's this going to be? Consumables, pipe. I don't know. There's going to be a pipe somewhere, right? Let's do that later. I will do that off camera, or otherwise, again, we have spent ages just going through menus and things like that, and you know, ridiculous. All right, so we've got that. How much did I say it was worth after I closed the window? 150 gold. There we go. Nice and easy. Now, of course, you know, D&D is a game of imagination. Anything that we give to the player in the way of images or sounds and lighting effects and stuff like that is all a bonus on top of using their imagination. So, you know, we're keeping it quite skinny for this one, but we will build that out and you will make decisions on what's going to work for your game best. We've got some steps here. Okay, so because we've got some steps, that would suggest that we need some kind of wall in here. Doesn't mean they can't climb it, but we would want them to do some kind of check. So I didn't put any walls in for that. And of course, it's going to be a height wall as well. So what we could choose to do here is we could choose to put a wall in here, okay, that will stop them walking between that bit because there's a drop. I'm going to do that bit in a minute. But if you're standing up here, you're definitely going to be able to see down that way. But you could argue if you're down here, you can't see up there because of the ledge, right? So let's go with that assumption. So this is again where we can use that wall direction thing. I'm going to get it the wrong way. I can never remember if that's the right way or not. Just, why can't I do it? Let's get our bard out again. Okay, so at the moment our bard can't see down there. Okay, if our bard is down this side, our bard can see. So, yep, 50-50 chance, wrong again. Let's do it that way. Reverse proximity is also possible. Yes, absolutely. You can use the proximity thing, and I think we will do that to a certain extent. Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to block light. That makes no sense. And we don't want to block sound. And in theory, we don't want to block movement, but we can do it that way, and that gives us what we need. So I can't see up there, even though the light will shine up there. But if I'm up here, I can see down. So it's just a little way that you can do that. But as Igla pointed out, you can also use proximity for it. So if my character's down here, the angle is going to allow them to see a certain amount up there if they want to, right? So this is blocking them completely. That may not be what you want. So just bear in mind, any of these, we've got sight normal, we can use proximity or reverse proximity to actually define how close you need to be actually be able to see it. So if we change that to, let's change that to 10 foot, for example. Okay. Now we're down here, we can see up there. But as I get closer, within 10 foot, I now can't see up there. So it's really good way of doing it. Now the reason why this is reverse proximity is the closer, you know, once you're within that range, you can't. Normal proximity would work the other way round. It would be once you're within that range, you can. So, I mean, that 10 foot might be too much. I might up that to 15 or something like that. But we can absolutely play with these things. Let's make it 20 just to prove the point. Okay, so if we're down here, we can see up there. In fact, let's drop a zombie up there, just a zombie standing on the cliff. If we get too close to the cliff, we can no longer see what's on top of that cliff. Yeah, move away again. Yes, I can. So that's how that works. And yeah, it's a good point, Iglo. It's a really nice little nifty thing to use for that. I'm going to put that back to 10 foot because that's actually much more sensible. It's not a massive. All right, so we can have that in there if we want to. And then we can actually, one of the easier ways to do this is we can copy that wall and we can paste it, and then we can put it where we want. So I'm going to do it from there. I can do it from there. In fact, actually, if I just paste it a few times, just makes this really easy to be able to slap this out. And then I just delete the ones I don't want. And it's not really relevant down here, but we can just pop that there as well. Okay, so that's going to work all the way around there. Is if we get too close to the wall, we can't actually see what's up the top there, which effectively means that you've got the ability for your character to go, oh, I'm going to hide under the ledge, you know, and things like that. So you can do that. Now I have got it on both ways at the moment, which I probably want to not do, but you get the point, and that's the important part. Igla, if you use threshold, it will be softer, so you can see a bit up the cliff when too close. Yeah, that's true. Actually, you can. So proximity threshold. Yeah, if we turn that on, then we get a nicer kind of bleed into that. So it works a bit better depending exactly on your particular scenario. In fact, because you've mentioned it, let's make sure we turn it on for these other ones as well. Not all of those, that's stupid. Right, okay, let's not spend too much more time on that. But yeah, you can see, so there's lots and lots of different ways that you can do things with walls, and that wall direction, proximity, and all of those things to give yourself different effects and stuff like that. At the end of the day, because you can spend hours faffing around doing that stuff, you've got to ask yourself the question is this actually adding anything to the player's experience? Sometimes it really does. Other times it's like, well, it's kind of nifty, but the players don't even notice. And I've encountered a few things like that, and it's like, yeah, I've done loads of work on this, and they just don't give a damn. They just don't really notice. They go, oh yeah, cute. But anyway, back to killing that monster. Yeah, oh, right. Right, 15. This is the Forge of Spells. Which is the big room that they're supposed to be trying to get to. So large workshop, badly damaged, blah, 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 blah. And again, we don't have the graphics in for that. So there's that argument for changing the map or building all of those tokens in. But again, we'll do that when we're filling stuff out for it. The monster that guards this room is a spectator. So we're going to need a spectator. Basically a baby beholder, right? And find our spectator from the monster manual. Make sure we drop it into our monsters. But again, he's going to have a name. We're ready to go. I can't remember his name. Why can't I remember his name? He's got one. It talks about the Wraith, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, the Wraith wants you to drive off or kill the spectator. Yeah, great. Maybe it's not in this one. Maybe it's the Shattered Obelisk updated one where they gave him a name. I'm sure he had a name. Or maybe I just gave him a name. Because that's the kind of thing my party would do. Is just like, has he got a name? What's his name? I need to know his name. It's like, really? It's like, do you have to? Like, yeah, name everything. All right, let's stick that spectator out anyway. We can always update the name later. Bam. There he is. Ugly looking fellow. Some of the artwork from the 2024 Monster Manual is absolutely brilliant. Some of it's just a little bit weird. So there is the Brazier green flame. So we are going to want to put that in. So when we come back and do all the detailing and stuff like that, that is definitely something we're going to want to do. And we will come through the module again and just look for those details to add to it. Now, this room is guarded by this spectator who's gone slightly bonkers, with the idea was that basically they end up having to fight it as the big bad evil guy before they could do that, after they've dealt with the drow, the big bad evil guy for that part. Yeah, because that's the way this module works. It talks about this brazier, and any non-magical weapon who's bathed in the green flame for at least 1 minute becomes a +1 weapon or +1 armor respectively for D12 hours. I think that's really mean. Oh, well done. You've gone through all of this. You've got +1 weapon that won't even last a day. That's not how I do this. The way I tend to run this is I give the Forge of Spells a certain amount of charges depending on the group. Generally, it's about the same as the number of players, or number of players in the party, with the idea that it can be used that number of times, and it will permanently add a +1 onto whatever item is put in there. So normally, somebody would put their mace in, and they've got a +1 mace, and that's permanent. And then they get really carried away and start chucking loads of stuff in. But of course, they end up with the fighter's got 3 items. And then the 4th item goes in, and that's it. The flame goes out, job done. Because it takes a while for that flame to regenerate its magical energy. It's up to you how long you want it to take to regenerate. I tend to go with a month's kind of thing to stop them just camping out here and just going, well, we just make weapons, enchant them and flog them, and that's it. Our adventuring days are over. Because it's amazing how hard players will work to stop themselves having to actually go on adventures. All right. So it says about it cannot be removed from the Forge of Spells, which is an important point. The northern room is a separate workspace where items being prepared by blah, 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 treasure. So Work table. It was charged to protect Lightbringer. +1 mace. Let's build Lightbringer. Conscious of time and me yabbering. So what we're going to do is we're going to start a new item. This is a weapon. Okay. It is called Lightbringer. So we can put that in. We can definitely go in and find an image for it. We want weapons. We want maces. Let's put our little images on so it's easier to see. And we can find one that we like the look of. To be honest, I'm not in love with any of these, but let's go with that one. All right, so we've got that. It's a +1 mace. How do we make this a +1 mace? Well, first of all, let's turn it into a proper mace. I know I could have started with an actual mace and then changed it, but that's not what I wanted to do for this, because I wanted to do it manually so you guys can see how to build from scratch. Does it become +2 if you put in a +1 weapon? Yeah, that's kind of the way that I do that, Igla. So in theory, they could pump up one weapon to be really powerful, but that's it. That's all they're getting. However, by the time they've figured out that they can enchant a previously magic weapon, they've often burnt through their charges and things anyway. If it looks like they're going to do that, I would cap it at +2 just so they're not walking around with a +5 weapon or something stupid. Even if they've only got one in the party, that becomes unbalancing. But I'd be more than happy to say, like, the forge can only enchant each item once. So if you put in a +1, it becomes +2, but then you can't enchant that item again. That's it, it's capped. You've got to work out how much urine your players will extract from it. Know your players and then decide how you want that to work. I quite like the fact they end up having an argument over what to enchant. And then they make a list and then they run out of charges. And there's always one character who gets upset because they've got nothing magical. I've yet to have a monk try and put their hands in to see what happens with those. +1 hands. No, you can't be a +1 monk. That's not going to work. All right, so I got distracted. So I'm not going to bother putting a description at the moment. We want to go to details here. It is a simple melee weapon. That's fine. Base weapon, we can pick it as a mace. That's easy. Proficiency level is automatic, so it depends whether the character's got proficiency or not. Has it got weapon properties, adamantium or adamantine? Ammunition, finesse, firearm, focus, heavy, light, etc, etc. Any of those that apply to your item you of course can put in. Is it magical? This one will be. Now as soon as we say something's magical, we get to choose whether it needs to be attuned or not. Now I'm just going to have another look at the description. It says it's +1 mace. The head of the mace is shaped like a sunburst. It glows as bright as a torch when its wielder commands. So whether you want that to be attunable or not is up to you. It's only a +1, but it does glow as well. So you might say attunement required, absolutely fine. And in this box, we're going to say what that magical bonus is. It's +1. Okay, really, really straightforward. Range, we don't need to touch it because it's a standard melee weapon. Damage formula, I'm going to get this wrong off the top of my head. Is it D6 or is it D8? It always has been D6, but I know they're going to have changed it because reasons. Let's go and check and see what the normal mace actually is. Just pull that up beside us so we can make sure we're copying. It's D6. Hooray! So it is 1d6, and that's going to be bludgeoning. Easy peasy. No limited uses on that. That's fine. But we need to put an activity on. Now, ignore the fact that I've got MIDI attack on because I put MIDI on for something else for this. All we need to do is ignore that MIDI tab there. Everything else is exactly the same. So we can rename it if we want. We can give it a special icon. Not going to bother. It's attack. It's default melee attack. Attack classification. Yep, that's really, really easy. Activation takes an action. It's a normal weapon. It's not consuming any resources. The targeting, I mean, it's it defaults to self, but the targets should be one creature. It defaults to that anyway if you don't particularly set it. The default is target one creature because it's a melee weapon. You don't need to set that stuff, and it doesn't have an area of effect, and it doesn't cause any effect. Now, again, mine's going to look different because of the MIDI thing on here, so it's bits at the bottom down here. That's it. We've created that mace as a +1 mace. Okay, it really is that easy. In the 2024, or rather in the version 13 with the D&D engine, it's that easy to do because it's they've made some really good changes. Now it has got that emit light thing. That is more challenging because if you want to do something like a use, again, ignore the fact that that says MIDI. You notice that you can cast, you can do MIDI checks, you can do stuff like that. We could choose cast and do it the easy way. And this means this is going to cast a spell when we use this activity. And we could choose the light spell. That's not strictly correct for this item because this item is you can turn it on and off by command, which is a bit more like a torch, right? Where you just turn it on and turn it off. So it's not going to be actually the same as a light spell, although that will work for this particular occasion. Let's go with that. We're going to go light. Let me just move my searcher over here. We're looking for spells. Twig blights and tree blights. Page, actors, key bindings. I haven't got my search thing sorted for it at all. Oh. It's not going to do it. Let's go to spells, find light. There we go. So what we can do is on this, on this spell tab here, we can drag light and we can stick it on there. Now, because this is command word rather than casting the spell, notice just down here under spell casting, okay, it's going to use our spell casting ability. Well, it's light spell, we don't need to worry about that. Ignored properties, we want to ignore verbal, semantic and material. We're going to ignore concentration. None of these are relevant to us, but we can also do things like override values. Now again, in this instance, it's light spell, there is no attack, there is no save DC, it's absolutely fine. So we can slap that on there, okay, as an extra activity. Now it says on command, it doesn't say take an action, and on command would suggest one word, right? Again, the rules are sometimes left to interpretation, so I'm going to say that that is a special, okay, just command word, middle of combat. It doesn't even use a bonus action, it's a word, you can do it. You just say flame on or whatever your word is, and I strongly encourage you to make your players come up with command words and things for their spells. It's a lot more fun. Expect swearing. So now when we use this particular item, we can either make an attack with it. Oops, I need to give it to somebody. Where's my person? Come back here. Give it to my bard. All right. Let me close that. Let me get Lightbringer and give it to my bard over here. Right. You can tell I wasn't prepared for this. I've segued again, haven't I? As I always do. Right. If I pretend I'm attacking that. So if I click Lightbringer, it's now going to ask me if I want to attack or use light. If I attack, it's going to do normal attack stuff. I've got some auto rolls on and stuff like that, so excuse the fact that I'm automatically going to be beating the crap out of this poor guy. It's not actually taking any hit points off of him, though. It's fine. But if I do light instead, it should, yep, it's going to give me the summon light, and I can choose the size and things like that because that's the default behavior that comes from the D&D 2024 engine, etc. So you can cast a spell just as you would. Now, if you've got automations on and you've got things like that, of course, that will improve the way that that works and will make that much more synergetic. I think that's the word I'm after. Anyway, there we go. There it is. I forgot to click it. It normally gives me a target. So I can put my light out. But that, again, that light should be on the item. We will look at that. I need to do an update video of looking at the... now, how do you put that light out? Is that an... It's an actor. There we go. I need to do an update video of looking at making items properly and in depth, and we will, and that's exactly the kind of thing that we will do using those other automation things and stuff like that. But anyway, so you can see you can build items, you can build those activities and things directly in and do that while you're kind of messing around with other things. Right, let's get rid of you, because once again, massively off track. All right, so Lightbringer, we've got Lightbringer. It does need attention, it does need to be sorted out a bit. And it says when it's glowing, it also does 1d6 radiant damage to undead creatures. So this is a weapon that is +1 all the time, and only +1 all the time, unless you turn the light on. If the light is on, it is now +1 that also does d6 radiant damage, but only to undead. So you can, when you start getting those effects layering up, where you've got to kind of go, oh right, it does this, but only if this, and only if the monster is that, it starts to get quite complicated. And that's where things like MIDI QOL really make a difference. Or otherwise you are basically, you just want to switch to say light on, light off, and the DM has to do all the work, which is fine. Okay, that's absolutely fine. Right, and the other thing in here is Dragon Guard, which is a +1 breastplate that has a gold dragon motif worked into its design, created for a human hero. And the wearer grants advantage on saving throws against the breath weapon of creatures of the type dragon. So that's another complex item from a MIDI, from an automating point of view. +1 breastplate, that's easy, we can do that. So let's do this one the other way. Equipment, we're going to go armor, we're going to find breastplate. I can just make sure I stick it in, get rid of that, there we go. Here's my breastplate, put it in the right one, easy peasy. Now, how do I make this, rather than manually doing it, can I make this magical, make it +1 relatively straightforward? The answer is yes. So this is how you can now do it the easier way, rather than designing it yourself, just so that you know, is when we come into the Dungeon Master's Guide and we go for, is it under equipment? It's under, when we're under magic items, there is a, oh look, I've said it now, and now I'm not sure exactly where to find the bloody thing. Somebody's typing in the chat already. I'm sure it was under equipment, which includes stuff like that. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So under equipment, can you see there's this armor +1, +2, +3. So this is an item that just has all the enchantments on. So rather than creating all of the different types of armor with all of the different enchantments, what they say is like, well, here's an armor, breastplate or adamantine armor, etc. And then you imply the enchantment afterwards. Now, there are some instructions in here, which is really good. And you can come through and you can look at all of these things. But if we look at the effects, this gives us an effect of +1, +2, or +3. Now what we can do is, if we're on the effects one here, if we drag this over here, that's now breastplate +1. It does it for you. Okay. Really nice and easy. So if we happen to find one that gives us an advantage against breath weapon, etc., you can do the similar thing. So one of the things to bear in mind if you're building automating stuff is sometimes build it as an equipment piece that you can apply and just drag over that effect, rather than creating it from scratch every time. Advantage on attack rolls, things like that, they're worth kind of actually doing. We got a breastplate +1. We're not going to do all the advantage stuff and things like that at this point, because that is a bit more in depth and a bit more in detail, way beyond what we're supposed to be doing here. But I will copy the description and put that in here, so that we know what it actually is. Get rid of that formatting. We're going to save that. Thank you. Oh, it's added the bit on the bottom from the enchantment. That's fine. And I might want to rename this. So it was called Dragon Guard. Dragon Guard Breastplate. There we go. That's done. So those just +1, +2 kind of things, really straightforward to do. Now we were talking about the fact that this is the Forge of Spells here. When they are enchanting items and things, that's the quickest way to do it. You go, oh, what are you putting in there? Right, brilliant. Open the item, chuck it on, job done. Move on, next item. Really, really quite simple. But again, that's only if you choose to do it the way I do, which is make it a permanent enchantment for X amount of, X amount of chances they have to do that. Okay, right. Moving on. Booming Cavern. That's up here. This is boring. as in the way that it's written. This is 16 up here. It's a large booming cavern. It's got water. That's it. That is all there is. Now I've got massively waylaid today and talked about everything except what we're supposed to be talking about, as is my want. What do we need to do? We need, so that is area 16. This over here is area 18. Can you see why Curse of Strahd took so long? I get so distracted by stuff. That is area 17. We've got area 19 and we've got area 20. So those are the remaining areas to do. How many did I actually do today? I did 13, 14, 15. I did 3 areas. Yes, we played around with that over there. Yes, we talked about lights and we talked about walls. We've still, and literally 16, there is nothing to do. We got 17. I don't think there's anything to do with 17 either. 18 there is, 19 and 20. So if I don't waffle too much, like an absolute muppet, next week we'll get this finished. This will be done. And we will have the big bad evil guy in. And then the week after, what we will do is we will go, right, let's go back to the very first scene, Goblin Ambush. Right, what do we, ignore the fact I've got tokens on here, what can we do to improve this? Do we need to do anything? Have we got in the pretty shiny stuff that we want, like automated animation, so that we get arrows flying across, and we can have a look at those kind of modules and start to build up some fancy bits and bobs as we go. You can see I was just doing some experiments with characters and automating a few bits for the game there. So sorry that was all over the place. Really, really bad. I'm quite tired. I've spent far too long sitting at the computer the past few days. I even took a couple of days off of work to try and get Curse of Strahd done, because it's sending me insane now. Just got items to finish and then it will be job done. Which reminds me, if you didn't see the video earlier today, which is fine, you don't have to watch everything, do check out the competition though. Polls, things, free books, definitely worth having a look at. If you don't have the Dungeon Master's Guide, Player's Handbook and Monster Manual, maybe you can win one through a luck of the draw, of course. So yeah, go and check that out and see. And I am making a promise to myself that next weekend, not only will we be giving away 3 books, but also Curse of Strahd will actually be job done. Have the link to the new completely module for 2024 rules version 13 Foundry. And then I'm going to take a big break, have a long hard look at myself and decide what big project I'm going to do next, because Curse of Strahd was a huge project to take on for my first proper module. Bonkers. Absolutely a stupid thing to do. It's been a lot of fun and I've learned a lot. But there we go. Right, we are over time, and I'm rambling. It's Sunday evening for me. So, I just kind of end up getting tired and just not ranty, just rambly. That's the word. See, can't even speak. That's my excuse. I'm sticking with it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your input. Lovely to see you again. 4x2ly, Jason, Igla. It's always a pleasure to have you guys along. My constant companions on a Sunday evening. It's very much appreciated. I do like the company. It's much better doing this. And yeah, I will see you in this next week. We actually finished the damn thing, right? I promise we will finish it. And then we'll play with shinies. Take care, everybody, and I will see you really, really soon. Have a great week. Look after yourselves. Look after each other. And yeah, bye.